ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when heaven feels silent, when prayers seem to rise no higher than the ceiling, when the nights grow long and the heart begins to whisper dangerous things. It whispers, maybe nothing is coming. It whispers, maybe you were forgotten. It whispers, maybe this delay is proof that the promise was never real. And yet I stand before you today with a message that will challenge that whisper, silence that lie, and lift your eyes again. Your wait is finally over, and you must prepare for what is coming. Not because the pain never happened, not because the tears were imaginary, not because the long road was easy. No, the wait is ending precisely because the wait was real. The ache was real. The unanswered questions were real. The doors that did not open were real. The people who misunderstood you were real. The battles fought in the dark, the nights of wondering, the quiet sobs no one heard, the faith you had to borrow from God, when your own faith felt thin as mist, all of it was real. And now, after the long silence, after the hidden years, after the season where it seemed like heaven had delayed its reply, the Lord is saying, prepare. Prepare because what is coming will not resemble what was lost. Prepare because the next chapter will not be a small correction. It will be a divine interruption. Prepare because God does not merely restore time, He redeems it. Prepare because the God who allowed the waiting is the same God who knows exactly when the waiting has done its work. Too many people think the waiting season is a blank page. They think it is dead time, wasted time, empty time. But God wastes nothing, not one tear, not one disappointment, not one unanswered message, not one closed door, not one detour, not one delayed answer. The very things you called interruptions were often invitations. Invitations to become the person who could carry what you prayed for. Invitations to grow roots before the fruit. Invitations to learn how to stand when applause is absent. Invitations to discover whether you loved the gift more than the giver. Invitations to be stripped of the illusion that you could do life by sheer strength, and to be taught that the greatest strength is not self-reliance but surrender. There is a holy cruelty in impatience. It wants the promise without the process. It wants the crown without the cross. It wants the harvest without the winter. But God is not sentimental in the way we are sentimental. He is loving, yes, tender, yes, near, yes, but He is also wise. He will not hand you something your character cannot carry, because He loves you too much to bless you into collapse. He will not let you arrive too soon at a destination your soul is not ready to inhabit. He will not answer every request at the speed of your emotion, because emotions are poor clocks and terrible architects. And perhaps that is the first thing your waiting season taught you, that you are not as in control as you thought. At first, this feels like humiliation. It feels like surrendering the steering wheel to someone invisible. It feels like standing at a railroad crossing while the train of your plans rushes past in the distance. But later, when you look back, you begin to understand that what felt like loss was protection. What felt like delay was preparation. What felt like silence was direction. God was not absent. He was arranging. He was arranging your timing. He was arranging your healing. He was arranging your correction. He was arranging the people who would walk with you and the people who would quietly leave. He was arranging the collapse of illusions you never knew were inside you. He was arranging the kind of strength that only comes from waiting with dignity, waiting with tears, waiting with a stubborn hope that refuses to die. And now the message comes with urgency. Prepare. Prepare, because the door you have begged for may not arrive with the style you expected, but it will arrive with the purpose you need. Prepare, because the answer may look smaller at first glance than your imagination desired, but within it may be the seed of everything you ever asked God for. Prepare, because the blessing that comes after a long delay often carries more weight than the blessing that came immediately. It has been tested in the furnace of desire. It has been refined in the quiet places. It has been purified by waiting. It has been made durable by sorrow. Have you ever noticed that the people who have waited longest are often the most dangerous to discouragement? They are not dangerous because they are loud. They are dangerous because they have learned how to endure. They have learned that faith is not the absence of uncertainty, but obedience in the presence of uncertainty. They have learned that hope is not childish denial, but holy defiance. They have learned that joy does not require perfect circumstances. It requires a soul rooted in something stronger than circumstances. Some of you listening have been standing in a place where the ground beneath your feet feels unstable. You have been trying to read the future by the patterns of your past, and the patterns of your past have not been kind. You have seen promises break before they matured. You have seen good beginnings collapse into disappointment. You have seen people come close and then disappear. You have seen prayers rise and not yet return in visible form. You have learned how to smile while carrying private grief. You have learned how to function while wondering. You have learned how to keep going with a heart that is tired of being brave. And now God says, do not let your exhaustion deceive you. Your waiting was not a sentence, it was a season. And seasons, no matter how long they seem, do end. That is the shock hidden inside hope. Hope insists that the current condition is not permanent. Hope dares to say that the story is still being written. Hope refuses to erect a monument to the worst moment and call it destiny. Hope is not naive. Hope simply knows the character of God. The enemy of your soul would love for you to interpret delay as abandonment. He would love for you to look at the closed door and conclude that you were unworthy. He would love for you to take the silence personally. He would love for you to mistake hiddenness for rejection. But heaven is not operating on the same schedule as your fear. God has never been late to the thing he truly intended to do. Not once. He may arrive after your deadline, but he never arrives after his purpose. And purpose is the only clock that matters in the kingdom. There is a reason some of your answers did not come when you wanted them. You were not ready to hear them then. There is a reason some of your prayers were not answered immediately. You would have carried them with pride, or fear, or immaturity, and the blessing would have become burden. There is a reason some relationships ended. They were not punishment, they were surgery. There is a reason some opportunities passed you by. They were not your portion, they were your bait. There is a reason some dreams had to die, so that the right dream could live. God is not cruel in pruning. He is merciful, and because he is merciful, he often strips us before he sends us. That is a hard word for a generation that loves instant results. We are surrounded by systems that promise speed, shortcuts, quick access, immediate gratification. But the kingdom of God is often more like seed time and harvest. Seed time is hidden. Seed time is quiet. Seed time is unimpressive. Seed time feels like loss because you bury what you love. You place it in soil and cover it up, and for a while it looks as though nothing happened. But in the dark, the miracle begins. In the dark, the roots push. In the dark, strength forms. In the dark, what will one day feed the world is becoming real. Do not despise the dark just because you cannot see it. It may be the womb of your next season. When you look at your life from the surface, you may only see delays, but God sees development. You may see abandonment, God sees alignment. You may see a pause, God sees a protection plan. You may see the end of the road. God sees a bend you have not yet reached. You may see silence. God hears prayers that have not yet matured into answers. He hears the ones you prayed in faith and the ones you prayed through tears. He hears the questions you could not even complete because pain interrupted your voice. He hears the groaning that language could not carry. And he has not forgotten. I know that phrase may sound simple almost too simple for the weight of what you have endured. But sometimes the simplest truths are the ones we fight hardest to believe. You have not been forgotten. The days have not slipped through the hands of God. Your name has not disappeared from his heart. Your tears are not anonymous to him. The chapter is not over because the page felt blank. There are ink marks beneath the surface you cannot yet see. I want to speak directly to the one who has quietly become tired of believing. You told yourself you were still hopeful, but somewhere deep inside you began preparing for disappointment because disappointment hurt less when it was expected. You built your guard higher. You laughed a little less freely. You stopped mentioning the dream out loud because speaking it made the silence louder. You became careful with your longing. You told yourself it was wisdom, but it was really self-protection. And God sees that too. He sees the places where pain taught you to shrink before life could wound you again. But now he says, come out of hiding. Not because the world is safe, not because every wound is healed, not because every person is trustworthy. No, come out because your life was never meant to be organized by fear. Come out because what is coming requires your full attention, your open hands, your unburdened heart. Come out because the next gift cannot be received by a soul still folded inward from old injuries. Come out because God is not inviting you merely to survive the next season. He is inviting you to live it. There is a kind of tragedy in surviving what you were meant to transform. Some people live as if the goal of life is to reduce damage, to avoid pain, to sidestep disappointment, to move through existence as carefully as possible so nothing touches them too deeply. But a guarded heart cannot fully receive joy. A closed hand cannot receive a gift. A life defined only by avoidance becomes a prison built by caution. God did not create you for a life of tiny fears. He created you for a life of deep trust. Trust is not easy. Trust requires surrendering the illusion that you can map every outcome and control every variable. Trust means standing in the middle of uncertainty and saying, still, I know whom I have believed. Trust is not a one-time event. It is a rhythm, a choice renewed in the face of every contradiction. Trust is what you do when your feelings disagree with your faith. Trust is what you do when the evidence is incomplete. Trust is what you do when the story is not finished, but your heart is tempted to conclude the ending early. And if you are honest, many of you have been concluding early. You looked at the delay and named it failure. You looked at the silence and named it rejection. You looked at the detour and named it punishment. You looked at the waiting and named it wasted time. But heaven calls it differently. Heaven calls it preparation. Think about the people God used in history. Think about Moses, who spent years in the wilderness before he was ready to lead a nation. He thought exile had ended his usefulness, but exile had merely educated him. Think about Joseph, who dreamed of greatness but first walked through betrayal, slavery, false accusation, and prison. He did not become wise in the palace. He became wise in the pit. Think about David, who was anointed long before he was crowned. He had oil on his head before he had a throne under his feet. His promise arrived before his position, because God was teaching him how to live with destiny before destiny became visible. That is often how God works. He gives you the word before the world. He gives you the promise before the proof. He gives you the call before the confirmation. He gives you the vision before the village believes. He gives you the hunger before the harvest. He gives you a glimpse of what is coming so that you can endure the space between. That space between is the most misunderstood place in life. It is where enthusiasm gets tested, where identity gets refined, where motives are exposed. It is easy to be faithful when the answer has already arrived. It is easy to praise when the path is clear. It is easy to believe when the evidence is stacked in your favor. But the waiting season reveals what kind of believer you truly are. Not to shame you, but to strengthen you. not to expose you for destruction, but to expose what must be healed before you enter the next assignment. And hear this carefully. What is coming is not merely for your comfort. It is for your calling. There are blessings that feel like comfort, and there are blessings that feel like responsibility. The ones you have been waiting for may be both. That is why God has taken so long. You thought you were waiting for an outcome, but in truth you were being prepared for stewardship. The thing you have longed for may change your schedule, your priorities, your relationships, your discipline, your prayer life, your obedience. It may require more maturity than you imagined. It may demand more humility than you expected. It may require you to become the kind of person who does not collapse under the weight of answered prayer. Answered prayer can be a test. Some people cry for what they would not know how to handle if given too soon. Some people pray for elevation while still addicted to the attention of the valley. Some people ask God for doors that would open into rooms where their character would be exposed. Some people want the platform, but not the pressure, the influence, but not the responsibility, the blessing, but not the burden of blessing others. God, in His mercy, delays until you can receive without being ruined by receiving. That is love. Love is not merely giving what is asked for. Love is giving what is right, when it is right, in the measure that is right. The parent does not hand the child the sharp tool before the hand is steady. The gardener does not harvest before the fruit ripens. The builder does not place the roof before the foundation. Yet in our impatience we accuse God of neglect, because He follows wisdom rather than impulse. Your delay has been refining your dependence. You have had to pray in ways you never would have if life had remained easy. You have had to trust beyond what you could touch. You have had to obey without applause. You have had to believe with empty hands. And because of that, you are not the same person who entered the waiting season. You are quieter in some ways perhaps, but deeper. You are more aware of eternity. You are less impressed by appearances. You are harder to manipulate. You are less likely to worship temporary things. You have learned, through pain, that the soul requires more than comfort. It requires meaning. And meaning is often born in hardship. The world tells us that a good life is one with fewer interruptions, fewer losses, fewer disruptions. But the kingdom reveals something different. A good life is one shaped by God, and God sometimes shapes through fire. Fire destroys what is false. Fire purifies what is real. Fire reveals the metal hidden beneath the dirt. Fire is not always a sign that you are being harmed. Sometimes it is the sign that you are being refined. So do not be shocked if the season, just before the blessing, feels intense. Do not be shocked if confusion rises one last time. Do not be shocked if old fears try to revisit you. Do not be shocked if the very moment before the breakthrough seems to grow darker. Often darkness intensifies before dawn. That does not mean the sun is failing. It means the sun is near. There are people listening who have been standing in the midnight of their story. You have been checking the sky with tired eyes. You have been asking, how much longer? You have been asking, did I mishear God? You have been asking, was I foolish to believe? And the answer to the last question is no. You were not foolish to believe. You were faithful. You were perhaps wounded, perhaps weary, perhaps confused, but you were not foolish. Faith is only called foolish by those who have never had to survive on promises. And promises are a strange thing. They are both fragile and unbreakable. Fragile, because they can be doubted before they are fulfilled. Unbreakable, because when God speaks, the words carry the weight of reality. Human promises are often uttered with good intentions and weak power. Divine promises are spoken from the throne of eternity. If God said it, the delay cannot cancel it. If God planted it, the storm cannot erase it. If God authored it, no human resistance can stop the final chapter. This is why you must prepare, not merely emotionally, practically, spiritually, mentally. Prepare your habits, prepare your language, prepare your schedule, prepare your heart, prepare your mind, prepare your expectations, prepare your gratitude, prepare your integrity, prepare your willingness to obey quickly, prepare to be misunderstood, because when God begins to move, not everyone will applaud the way he chooses to move. Prepare to release what cannot travel with you. Prepare to forgive. Prepare to forgive again, if necessary. Prepare to stop rehearsing the old wound as if it were your identity. Prepare to make room, because one of the greatest dangers in life is to pray for expansion while remaining occupied by what is no longer meant to stay. Some of you are asking God to do something new while your hands are still clenched around old grief. You cannot receive with closed fists. You cannot walk forward while dragging what was meant to be buried. You cannot enter the next room while insisting on sitting in the hallway. Preparation is not just about readiness, it is about release. Let go of the version of your life that did not happen. Honor it. Grieve it if you must, but do not live there. The future is not offended by your mourning, but it will not wait forever for your reluctance to end. The future is coming. The door is opening. The season is shifting. The pressure is changing. The grace is arriving. And yes, there may be fear alongside anticipation. That is normal. New things are often frightening. Even good things can terrify us when we have been hurt long enough. But fear does not have to drive. Fear can ride in the back seat and still be told where to go. You do not have to be fearless to be faithful. You only have to be willing. Willing to say yes when your mind is unsure. Willing to step when the whole staircase is not visible. Willing to believe that the God who led you through the dark will not abandon you at the threshold of the dawn. This is not the hour to shrink. This is not the hour to doubt the goodness of the one who carried you thus far. This is not the hour to question whether your life has purpose. This is not the hour to compare your timing with someone else's. This is not the hour to resent the process that made you. This is the hour to lift your head and say, if God has brought me here, He can bring me through, and He will. He will through the conversations that need to happen. He will through the decisions that feel heavy. He will through the opportunities that feel bigger than your skill. He will through the changes that make your heart race. He will through the unknown that lies just ahead. He will through the joyful surprises and the difficult adjustments. He will through the tears that still come occasionally, because healing is rarely linear. He will through every step you take in obedience. Do not underestimate the power of a person who has waited well. A person who has waited with faith carries a different kind of authority. They know how to praise before proof. They know how to stand when logic says sit down. They know how to bless what they cannot yet see. They know how to keep a lamp lit in the long night. They know that hidden faith is still real faith. They know that no audience is required for obedience. They know that God sees in secret, and what He sees in secret, He rewards in time. Maybe that is why your waiting has felt so lonely. Not because God was absent, but because He was teaching you a sacred independence from applause. He was teaching you to build a life that does not collapse when no one notices. He was teaching you to be rooted in something more durable than human affirmation. He was teaching you to receive your identity from His voice, not from the crowd's approval. He was teaching you that it is possible to be unseen by people and fully seen by God, and that the second matters infinitely more. There is a mystery here, and it is beautiful. The season that felt like concealment was often consecration. The season that felt like delay was often distinction. The season that felt like being passed over was often being set apart. You were not always ignored. Sometimes you were being protected from being built by the wrong hands, shaped by the wrong voices, or accelerated into the wrong environment. God's mercy often looks like no before it looks like yes. It is hard to thank God for the no when you do not yet understand what it saved you from. But one day you will. One day you will look back and realize that the closed door kept you from a collapse you could not have foreseen. One day you will discover that the relationship you begged to keep would have exhausted your peace. One day you will see that the detour led you to the exact place where your strength would be developed. One day you will praise the wisdom of the waiting. And when that day comes, you will not merely say, God was right. You will say, God was kind. Kind enough not to hand you what would destroy you. Kind enough to let the process mature you. Kind enough to preserve your soul while your circumstances were confusing. Kind enough to hold back the river until the banks were ready. Kind enough to make sure your life could hold the weight of blessing. That is what is happening now. The wait is ending not because time alone has passed, but because something in you has changed. You may not feel fully changed. Growth is rarely loud. But heaven measures what the mirror cannot. Heaven measures endurance. Heaven measures humility. Heaven measures faithfulness in small things. Heaven measures the prayer you prayed when no one would ever know. Heaven measures the moment you almost quit and did not. Heaven measures every hidden act of obedience. And because of that, the answer is beginning to move toward you. You may not hear it yet, but there is movement in the unseen. There is a rearranging. There is a divine choreography happening beyond the limits of your eyesight. You call it coincidence when it is providence. You call it timing when it is orchestration. You call it a chance when it is calling. What is coming has already been known in the heart of God. The details may still be unfolding in your life, but they are not uncertain in His. So keep watch. Keep your heart soft. Keep your hands open. Keep your mouth full of praise. Keep your conscience clear. Keep your standards holy. Keep your hope alive. Keep your face turned toward the light. And when the thing you asked for begins to appear, do not rush past gratitude in the intoxication of receiving. Gratitude is the language of those who understand they did not arrive by accident. Gratitude is how you honor the journey. Gratitude is how you remember that even the painful parts were not wasted. Gratitude is how you keep the blessing from becoming an idol. Gratitude says, I know where this came from. Gratitude keeps the soul large enough to receive more, because more is coming. More peace than the last season gave you. More wisdom than the last season required. More courage than the last season demanded. More clarity than the last season provided. More joy than the last season allowed. More purpose than the last season revealed. More of God than you thought possible. Do not imagine that the coming season will be identical to the one you pictured in your waiting. God is rarely limited by our sketches. He answers with a generosity that surprises us. Sometimes He gives what we requested. Sometimes He gives better than we requested. Sometimes He gives in a way we would never have chosen, and later we realize His way was the truest kindness. He does not merely satisfy desire, He sanctifies it. He does not merely fulfill longing, He purifies it. And perhaps the greatest miracle of all is not the thing that comes, but the person you become as it comes. The wait is over, yes, but the deeper story is that you are ready now in ways you were not before. You can see differently. You can endure differently. You can love differently. You can pray differently. You can receive differently. You can walk with a steadier heart because the waiting taught you how to be held by God when everything else was unstable. That is the treasure hidden inside delay, not merely the answer, not merely the blessing, not merely the open door, but the deepening of your soul. And now, as you stand on the edge of what is coming, I want you to remember this. The same God who sustained you in the waiting is the God who will sustain you in the receiving. He is not only the God of the wilderness, He is the God of the promised land. He is not only the God of the prayer room, He is the God of the fulfillment. He is not only the God of tears, he is the God of testimony. He will not abandon you once the blessing appears. In fact, the blessing itself may become a new altar, where you learn to worship with even greater sincerity. So raise your expectation, but do not raise it above your obedience. Raise your hope, but do not tie it to outcomes. Raise your eyes, but keep your feet ready to move when God says move. Raise your voice, and let it speak life over the season ahead. Raise your standards, because what is coming is holy ground. Raise your gratitude, because you are standing on mercy, not merit. Raise your faith, because heaven has not finished writing your story. I know the wait felt endless. I know the ache was deep. I know there were moments when you thought your strength had finally run out. But here you are, still here, still breathing, still able to hear, still able to hope, still able to rise. And that alone is evidence that the story is not over.